Hi guys, I thought I would read to you two letters that Yahweh wrote this morning and sent them to somebody very special. And a number of you have received this for your own information, but I thought I should read it for the world to hear. The oldest account of what will befall the earth in the end time was passed down from Enoch to his son and offspring to Noah, and the building of the ark by Noah, the reason for destroying the inhabitants of the earth. Reincarnation has been removed from the unholy Bible and replaced with the Jewish Talmud subterfuge language interpretation, therefore seducing the masses in England via the King James 1611 and the Catholic rant out of the Vatican. What the King James Version 1611 conveys to us are the numbers of words, verses, chapters, which were included as a matter of necessity to read as opposed to holding one's finger on the open page while you sleep. The challenge for you is to lay back as if you have been stripped of learning and become a child once more, for human beings short of a full frontal lobotomy will delve into the satanic truth they have been bullshitted with and, inevitable, have all the answers. Therefore, let me lay it out to a 5-year-old so you can grasp it securely and forever be freed from the Zionist hell into which I dove to retrieve you from it. There are 8,674 words in the King James 1611 Bible Hebrew section, and 3,050 less in the Greek. The KJV being translated from the Septuagint Greek, and the English required all university applicants to be Freemason and read and write as well as speak Greek. 8674, if by synchronicity principle we regard not as words but as years, would be 3168112 days. In Greek gematria, that is the letters as numbers, very common in ancient time to convey the true message to the educated and over the head of the masses, is Lord 800, Jesus 888 and Christ 1480, totals 3168. And 112 in Hebrew is Lord. And Yahweh says it's not that fucking hard, is it? We then have a loss of 3,050 words from the Hebrew dictionary, and only 5,624 in the Greek. That's from the James Strong's Exhaustive Concordance, the 1830 edition. So mathematically, the 3,050 words representing Yah, being the Hebrew meaning for that number 3050, has been removed from the Greek, or in other words, the Serpent's Bible has removed Jesus as the Lord Yah. The Great Pyramid, as you know by the multitudes of documentaries and books, was built as a tomb, right? Wrong. Had it been built for a dead pharaoh, then they would not have bothered measuring it for the last 500 years. The reality is in the measurements. For example, my home for 13.13 years was on Nell Street, Greensboro, Victoria, Australia, and it is 5,813 kilometres from the South Pole, and sits on a latitude that is 31,680 kilometres around the Earth. So we have the pyramid in its mathematical height with the rejected capstone at 5,813 pyramid inches high. Where I was reborn at 105 Rothschild Avenue, Rosebery in Sydney. I was born at St Margaret's Maternity Ward, Catholic, on January the 11th, 1944. A solar eclipse occurred near the pyramid along the 25-degree north latitude on January the 25th, 1944. The distance to my crib, and he means from that solar eclipse, was 8,888.8 miles. That crib was 3,875 nautical miles to the South Pole, and the berthing delivery room was 3,877 nautical miles to the South Pole, which is the verse total for the word God in the 1611 KJV, and in it the word God occurs 4,443 occasions. In the Great Pyramid there is an antechamber 116.26 pyramid inches wide, leading through it from the Grand Gallery to the far wall of the King's Chamber is a distance of 537 pyramid inches. So the key of David from Isaiah 22:22 must open the passage from the coffer to the antechamber, where genetically Christ must pass through into the Grand Gallery, the earth and time, to arrive through the clouds of confusion, thanks to the stupidity of the Zionist domination of the world, to the passage into the Queen's Chamber at 1,521 pyramid inches long, into the unfinished chamber. 1521 in Greek and Hebrew means to lead into the river of paradise. I was married when I was 1,162.6 weeks old, or 22.28 years, and that is the height of the highest mountain in Australia, 2,228 metres, Mount Kosciuszko. My brother was illegitimate, born 8.88 years before I, and on my birth date the sunrise to moonrise was 888 minutes for Sydney. 8,880 days later, I was in Port Alberni, Canada, when my daughter Tracy Lee was reborn. That is the total value of the verse Matthew 1:23. In it, Emmanuel, meaning God with us. My third wife, Michelle Nye, became a mother to Rhiannon on December 20th, 1979. She is 11.626 years younger than Tracy Lee, born May the 4th, 1968. Michelle is 1,162.6 days younger than I, born March the 19th, 1947. And my youngest daughter, Nicole, born November the 2nd, 1977, is 777 days older, and this is 2.127 years. Michelle, being 32.75 years old when she was delivering Rhiannon, and that number is Yakan in Hebrew, and 2127 is Zia. These two names are solitary in the 700,000 words of the Old Testament, yet are found side by side in 1 Chronicles 5:13. Therefore the antechamber at 116.26 pyramid inches is opened by a genetic key that I had to find by returning from Canada to find Michelle at a dance in Melbourne. 2.127 years, then, being 777 days, is the distance in kilometres from where I was reborn to my first wife, Satan in the flesh, and then to my home in Nell Street is 777 kilometres. 1 Chronicles 5:13 therefore unlocks the predetermined genetic lineage to hapless people who had and still have no idea what it is all about. Quoting, "And their brethren of the house of their fathers were Michael, and Meshullam, and Sheba, and Jerai, and Yakan, and Zia, and Heber, 7. Add the 7 numbers, the verse total of the 1611 KJV, and the Julian day I was reborn, is 31101 verses in the entire Bible, and I was reborn on Julian day 243 31101. When we measure from the grand gallery the great step to the far wall of the king's chamber, then to the king's coffer, then the ceiling, multiply it by a lunation, which is 25.53052 days, it equals 31101. Divide 31101 by the 7, which are the names in the verse, 1 Chronicles 5:13, by the 7 names. It averages 4,443. And we have God, but measure from the 2 houses I built in Canada. These are 444.3 kilometres apart, and it is where my daughters were conceived. On the street where I was reborn, it runs into a T intersection named Harcourt Parade. The house number 105, which means eagle in Hebrew Strong's numbers, and in the town of Harcourt, some 444 miles distance, is Eagles Road, running north-south. Measure from the 105 Rothschild to South Eagles to North Eagles and back to 105 Rothschild is 888 miles. As said, my stepdaughter, born on December 20th, 1979 in Geelong, Victoria, where the sunrise to sunset was 888 minutes. My daughter Tracy Lee, born May the 4th, 1968, Port Alberni, BC, Canada, it's the same sunlight, 888 minutes, and they are 11.626 years apart. The Hindu Vedas, Satan as a man was killed in the flood. It begged God to not be destroyed, saying it too was created by Yah the Almighty, and according to Hindu Vedas was given a second chance, but could not return as a man, only as a spirit. It was confined to Colombo, Sri Lanka today, and Noah was told that no human being was ever to live on the island, as Satan would devour them and spread evil worldwide. The island was inhabited, and we see men inclined to evil, as per the Zionist Talmud, King James 1611 Bible, is a trap to lure the West, the 10 tribes of Israel, to be consumed by Freemasonry and churches to seduce the masses into accepting Jesus as the Spirit, who they predict by the altered parables and the ranting of Paul, to believe Jesus returns as the Spirit, not as predicted by Jesus, that no one will reincarnate as the most royal man alive, as per Isaiah prophecies. It just so happens that I am the most royal man alive, being my parents' genetic line from King William I the Lion, the Habsburg royal line diverted to England in 846 AD, and via my parents back to King David. It's that simple. First the most royal man alive, and find the most royal man alive, and you have Christ. I served the Queen a declaration of claim to vacate the throne via her legal system, as she is supposed to hand it over to Christ, and that was on June 14th, 2010. As for the Mayan calendar, the entire Mesoamerican pyramid, all were built by the angels led by the Kukulkan Quetzalcoatl, he the leader of the angels who built all pyramids in Mexico, etc. This became the first Mesoamerican religion to transcend the old classic period linguistic and ethnic divisions. Kukulkan cult facilitated communication and peaceful trade among peoples of many different social and ethnic backgrounds. As the cult was originally centered on the ancient city of Chichen Itza in the modern Mexican state of Yucatan, it spread as far as the Guatemalan highlands. When he and the angels left by the eastern sky, he warned if they returned to bloodlust, they would be destroyed. They did. And when the Spanish arrived, they thought it was the gods, and were psychologically defeated, and defeated 1519. The return of Nibiru is a 3,600 plus year cycle. I have been photographing it for several months. It has been sighted over Russia and China. In addition, I have been in contact with Iran and Russia and have chosen 144,000 Muslim women as the saints predicted by the Book of Revelation. Perhaps a surprise, however, that Christ is to marry the 144,000 virgins who have not fallen to the Christian demonic West, and being women have suffered under various male-driven laws of evil clerics who must inevitably refuse the virgin wife prophecy, being uninformed and Satan-driven, and as such tread underfoot the women of the Muslim world. I have chosen the Muslim women from all nations to be my wife in the kingdom of God, here on earth, and they are the true chosen race, as are opposed to the self-appointed Jews, who are not genetic at all, from the tribe of Judah, but of Turkish Mongols which invaded Russia, adopting the Talmud Judaism as it is of the devil, themselves wolves in sheep's clothing. The Russians are the 200 million predicted to come from the east. But why Russia? They are Orthodox, not Western Roman Christian, and are opposed to the Western faiths. I could go on, but not wanting to influence you, I have declared February the 22nd, 2012 as Judgment Day, and sentence carried out on April the 3rd, 2012. In the book of Enoch it tells us that your last life is what you are judged on, not this, and is why let them be evil still and let the righteous be righteous still. No amount of talking truth and logic will convince the damned, but will awaken those who search for me. Regards, Brian, Leonard, Golightly, Habsburg, Marshall.